The thing that was memorable about this play to me was that it touched base on The Simpsons, and I thought it was pretty interesting how they incorporated this belief of like the Simpsons episode and they're tying back to how society used to be. I thought that was really interesting how they did that, and I think the episode that they chose, the Mr. Burns episode specifically, was also a great choice for this play because it adds that sense of suspense, and they're in the woods telling the story in Act One. So I think that almost suspense of the woods and campfires and nobody else around really added to the play. The most prominent theme in this play to me was the reoccurrence of how pop culture is a, almost a connection between the past and the present, and how it really like helped the characters think back to the time that there used to be society, and it really kept them sane. Another theme of this play is almost like misdirection. The characters relive the Simpsons episode as a way to just almost take their mind off the post apocalyptic society that they're living in, and how there's all this fallout, the nuclear radiation, and they're taking this play as a way to kind of just deal with what's going on and almost put all of their problems aside just for a moment. The third theme I wanted to discuss was how pop culture is almost represented as a language. All of these characters from different backgrounds, different places, who've been through so much, can all relate back to this one topic, which is The Simpsons, specifically Mr. Burns' episode. So I think they almost express this as like a spoken language, especially like similar to how music is a language. I think it's the same thing. So three characteristics of this piece of theater that I recognize is it builds a sort of suspense which ties back into the play outside of this play, like the play Mr. Burns. It has a surprise ending at the end where Bart's family was killed, and you didn't quite expect that to happen, even unless you've seen the episode, of course. And a third characteristic of this piece that I recognized was the ballads and the music that kind of went along with what was occurring within The Simpsons. So Act 3 relates to the previous two acts in a sense that it's just kind of explaining what has happened in the previous two acts. And one quote I have right here is, "Love never dies in memory." This is talking about how Bart lost his family and how these characters in Mr. Burns have lost a lot of what they loved because of the apocalypse, but like their love will go on forever and their legacy will go on forever as long as these people survive. Another quote that I found memorable was when Mr. Burns is talking to Bart, and Mr. Burns is basically saying, "I'll be here for thousands of years, for millions of years." I think this correlates back to the past two acts because they talk about how this piece of art, this Simpsons episode, has been prevalent for so long, and it's what keeps them from diverting this apocalyptic society off their minds and keeping themselves sane. One last quote that I found very significant, and that's relating back to the previous two acts, is Homer says, "Nothing protects us, son. Nothing holds us, nothing leads us on, but we tumble ahead anyway. We scrape, we bleed, we bite. You're going to fight and fight." This is really prevalent to the characters and what is going on in society, is because this apocalypse, this nuclear fallout happened, and these people almost feel hopeless, but even though they feel that way, they continue to fight on, try to push forward, and overcome what has happened. Even if they're not sure why or what's happening, they just keep fighting forward. I think some pop culture stories that happen today that I can imagine living on past the apocalypse is almost like war type movies like American Sniper and heroic stories such as that, maybe Act of Valor. And these stories are meaningful in a post apocalyptic world because they talk about the struggles that the world has gone through and how one person, like an American Sniper, overcame so much obstacle. And I think in a post apocalyptic world, that's something good to know because it gives you a sense of hope. And knowing that American Sniper is a real movie and it's based on true events, that anything is possible. And I think that's really good reinforcement for people in a post apocalyptic society.